Section 5.2, sum and difference formulas. We have the sine of alpha plus beta is the same as sine of alpha cosine of beta plus cosine of alpha sine of beta. So the pattern goes sine, cosine, cosine, sine, but notice that we have the same sign with sine. With cosine alpha plus beta, the pattern is cosine, cosine, sine, sine, but notice when we add the two here, we're going to subtract in the formula. So for cosine, we have the opposite signs. Using the difference formula for cosines to find an exact value. Find the exact value of cosine of 15 degrees. Well, we're going to use the known angles around the unit circle. So we're going to take the cosine of 45 minus 30. Those are two angles on the unit circle we know that we can combine to get 15 degrees. Now the pattern for cosine is cosine of 45, cosine of 30, and then if it's minus here, if it's minus there, it's going to be plus in the formula. Plus sine of 45, sine of 30. Now we just need to get the values for these. Cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 30 is square root of 3 over 2. Sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. And sine of 30 is 1/2. Now we have square root of 6 plus square root of 2 over 4 when we multiply and then add the tops and get the common denominator. Use the difference formula for cosine to find an exact value. Find the exact value of cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Well, that's the pattern for cosine. Cosine, cosine, sine, sine. And now we just have to put these together. So we have the cosine of 80 degrees minus 20 degrees. If there's a plus here, when we put them together, that's going to be a minus. Cosine is opposite signs. This ends up being the cosine of 60 degrees, and the cosine of 60 degrees is 1/2. Verifying an identity. Let's use the formula for the angle addition for cosine. So on top we have the cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, plus sine of alpha, sine of beta, over sine of alpha, cosine of beta. Let's use reverse common denominator. Cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, over sine of alpha, cosine of beta, then plus sine of alpha, sine of beta, over sine of alpha, cosine of beta. Now those cancel, and we're left with cosine of alpha over sine of alpha plus sine of beta over cosine of beta, and that's going to be cotangent of alpha plus tangent of beta. Using the sign of a sum to find an exact value. Find the exact value of sine of 7 pi over 12 using the fact that 7 pi over 12 is really 4 pi over 12 plus 3 pi over 12. And we know those. It's pi over 3 and pi over 4. We're doing the sine. So that's sine of pi over 3 and then cosine of pi over 4. This is the pattern for sine. Sine is the same sign, so plus cosine of pi over 3, sine of pi over 4. Now we know the sine of pi over 3, that's square root of 3 over 2. Cosine is square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2, and sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. We end up with square root of 6 plus square root of 2 over 4. Finding exact values. Suppose that the sine of alpha is 12/13 for a quadrant 2 angle alpha, and sine of b is 3/5 for a quadrant 1 angle. Sine of b is 3/5 for a quadrant 1 angle beta. Find the exact value of each of the following. Cosine of alpha. Well, alpha is a quadrant 2 angle over here, and the sine is 12/13. So if we take 169 minus 144, that's 25. Square root of 25 is 5. So that's -5. Turns out the cosine of alpha is -5 over 13. Beta is a quadrant 1 angle. So here's quadrant 1. And its sine is 3/5. So 3/5, that makes this a 4. The cosine of beta is 4/5. Now we want the cosine of alpha plus beta. Now the pattern for cosine is cosine alpha, cosine beta. Cosine's the opposite sign. Sine of alpha, sine of beta. So the cosine of alpha is negative 5/13. Cosine of beta, we just found out, is 4/5. Minus sine of alpha is 12/13. And the sine of beta is 3/5. So that's negative 20 minus 36 over 65, which is negative 56 over 65. So that's the cosine of alpha plus beta. Now the sine of alpha plus beta is, we follow the pattern, sine of alpha, sine of beta. Sine is the same sign, so plus, wait, that's not it. Let's back up. It's sine cosine. So sine of alpha, cosine of beta, opposite sign. Cosine of alpha, sine of beta. The sine of alpha is 12/13. 12/13. The cosine of beta is 4/5. And then minus cosine of alpha is negative 5/13. And the sine of beta is 3/5. 3/5. We have 48, and we end up with, let's see, 48. And we end up with plus 15 over 65. So we end up with 63 over 65. Now the angle addition for tangent, the pattern is tangent of alpha plus tangent of beta over 1 minus tangent alpha times tangent of beta.